Looky there. No, I did not buy a telehandler. Even though I'd love to have a telehandler, no, I did not buy it. But that's a telehandler for the crew that will be constructing our addition to the grain bins down there. The loadout bin. Yes, it's been a long process, but it's finally going to happen. Next week, they're supposed to get out here while we're after we get started picking cotton. We're not going to do the grain bins. They're supposed to get out here and get this overhead loadout bin assembled. So hopefully I'll have some progress for you on it in a week or so. It's been slow going this morning. This heavy dew here around the edges and stuff just doesn't want to dry out. It's starting to get there a little bit. Let's slow down a little bit, please. Slow down.
I did.
I tell you what, I cannot wait for that first frost. I'm ready for these green stem beans to die. Running 2 miles an hour, 90% engine load, but I was right. These beans yielding mighty fine. I was excited to get over here to them, and they not disappointing. I think I mentioned during the wheat harvest videos that all the varieties of double crop beans that I'm planting this year, which is 3, were all brand new to me. I'd never tried them behind wheat before. Pioneer got rid of the 2 I had been using that I was really fond of, so I was really nervous because planting behind wheat in the middle of June is a lot different than planting full season beans in late April or early May on how they can perform. So far, I've not been disappointed. The 48A60s that we planted, we got all them cut. I was really pleased with how they yielded. You know, some of the best beans some of the best double crop beans we've ever cut. And so far, what little bit we've cut of these 47A T64s, I'm really impressed. You know, you get down and, I mean, the decent parts of the field, I mean, they're 65, 70 bushel beans. I mean, that's what we were doing on our full season beans. But these are double crop beans, so I'm blown away.
Cotton's starting to defoliate pretty quick, fluff out, even though it looks like poop. Some of the spots in the farm look pretty good. This weather's helping it out. Maybe we'll get to calibrate some of it on Saturday. We're supposed to get rain tonight into tomorrow morning, so it really doesn't help too much. Don't think it's gonna be a big rainmaker, but you don't want rain when you've got cotton ready to go.
Got started on double crop beans yesterday. It was kind of running around like chickens with our heads cut off. So now that we finally got a groove, first thing this morning I'm headed out to spray 1 load of cotton defoliant, second shot. I've already been to Helena this morning to pick up a full tender load wheat seed so that we can hopefully get about 65, 70 acres in the ground of wheat this week. Spray this out, get back to the shop, get the 18-wheeler to the field, and jump on the bush hog while Matt and Kelly get me a load cut to haul back to the bins.
Can't remember if I mentioned it a few videos ago, but on the first day of our soybean harvest, had a problem with my drone. I just got done filming a shot. I had it hovering about 15 feet off the ground to go turn the combine around, get lined up on the next pass. And when I turned around, the drone had fallen out of the air and was sitting upside down on its propellers. Didn't do any serious damage to the drone, I thought. It kind of popped the shell loose a little bit and it cracked one of the legs. No big deal on that. Then when I fired it back up, the gimbal on the camera was not acting right. It kept on hunting up and down, trying to do self-calibration, and it never would do that self-calibration. So anyway, I sent it to Farm Space, where who handles all of my drone supplies, drone repair, everything else. And apparently, when it fell out of the sky, one of the gimbals tore up some, and he tried replacing it, but DJI's got it where the only person that can recalibrate a gimbal is actually in the factory. So it would require replacing the whole camera and gimbal, which costs $1,000+ Anyway, I decided I'm not going to go that route. I think that was my 4th Phantom model. The last 2 have been destroyed through no faults of my own. They just fallen out of the air. So DJI is releasing the Mavic 3 probably in early November, and that's what I'm going to go with. However, that means I'm not going to have a drone for all of this soybean harvest, and not going to have a drone for probably at least a good part of my cotton harvest. That pretty much sucks, because I really love a drone during harvest, especially cotton harvest, the way the fields look nice and pretty and white. But if I do show any drone footage, it's going to have to be drone footage that I saved from a previous year. I don't like doing it that way, but other than that, all we're going to have is camera views, just me and the cab talking, which I know gets old after a while. And that's even assuming I'll be able to get the new Mavic 3 whenever it does come out. The way electronics are now, there's no guarantee of that. And the reason I didn't go with a Mavic before is because it just didn't have the specs on the video part that I needed. It cannot shoot 4K at 60 frames per second, plus it did not have a mechanical shutter. But the Mavic 3 will have all of those features. And from everything I've seen and what I've seen on other people who have had one, the Mavics are a lot more durable drone than what the Phantom series has been. I swear, I'm just about fed up with drones. I spent more money on drones the last 5 or 6 years than I have any other piece of camera equipment. I just hate spending money on something that I just spent money on just a few short months ago. Boy, Kelly really loaded that sucker to the hilt. I don't imagine Zach's saying some good things having to get up there and roll that tarp off manually.
I honestly don't have anything to contribute other than I'm back in here again, and I just sit in the field and wait for Matt to jump in the buggy and load it up. So I did plant all of these beans though, so pretty proud that I planted these. They look really good, like really good. So it's nice to see that your hard work pays off. I don't know what the yield is. I'll ask him after we get the farm done. But I pretty much figured this one would be the highest one. And then, not the one next door, but the last farm we did in wheat, which is 100 acres, which is in Madison County, I think that one's gonna be pretty good too. But this one is definitely the best. At least it looks like that, but you don't really know. So kind of hoping it is. It's kind of cool to see what you plant come to fruition. So
I tell you, some of our fields have got the weirdest obstacles out in the middle of them. Just like this barn over here, right out here in the middle of the field. This farm up until 3 years ago though was a cattle farm, and I think that's where they kept hay at. Unfortunately, with it being in the middle of the field, it's really not useful for anything anymore, because to park stuff in it, I'd have to drive through standing crop to get to it. So it just stays a perfectly good shed right there, just stays empty now. And that's really going to be key for us, especially like on this farm. This was a cattle farm, poor, thin, hilly soils, and we're going to be going back on this farm with corn next year. That's the plan anyways. And by accumulating more biomass there, we're going to improve these soils that much more. The soil will be more shaded next year for longer in the year, thereby keeping it cooler and stuff. Could help this ground infiltrate more water and retain more water throughout the growing season. And on corn, that could potentially be huge. You know, so far I'm really pleased with the stand of cover crop that I've seen. Typically when you get into aerial seeding, it can be hit or miss whether you actually get a decent standard knife, because I mean, you're just throwing seed out on top of the ground, and you got to depend on the right weather conditions, the right amount of rainfall in order to get it to germinate. And then to top everything else off, this year, like I said, we had 100 bushel wheat yield, so there was a lot of straw on the ground that could impede the seed actually reaching the ground and getting seed to soil contact. But following that aerial seeding, we had great conditions for getting a cover crop established. We didn't have great conditions for harvesting, but we had great conditions for getting the cover crop established. We had, I think, 3 or 4 days of wet weather, and in those 4 days we had 2 episodes of some really hard rainfall to really pound that seed down through the straw and get it to the ground to where it could germinate. And then the straw was able to keep it damp enough to where it was able to get a root system established and come on and come up. Ideally, you know, if I'd known we were going to be cutting these beans this early, I would have waited and drilled them. But luckily, you know, we got a good enough stand with the aerial seeding. It cost me a lot more per acre than it did drilling, because the airplane cost I believe is $13 an acre, and then I had to use about 30% more seed than what I normally would to account for, you know, not all of it's going to come up. It costs more money in the long run. We're still going to wind up with a successful stand.
Does he know that there's beans right there? So like I can't get under your arm? I'm just asking for a friend. Do you want me to run over the beans? I really don't know what's going on here. I know to follow you. I'm following you, but what are you doing? You're on the wrong side.
You can see around the edge of the field, Zach's been doing some bush hogging, making them look all nice and neat. There he is, over there in the distance. You know, normally we wait till after harvest is done, when we have time to go around all the fields and bush hog. It doesn't take Zach long to run a truck, and otherwise he'd be sitting in the truck twiddling his thumbs. So in between running loads, he hops on the bush hog and cuts around the fields. Just that much less we got to do there in December, because this year I'm really going to need him in this truck hauling grain, because we got a lot of corn to haul to Tyson. And then not to mention, normally when we bush hog there in November, first part of December, sometimes it can tend to be a little muddy. it's definitely a plus. We can go ahead and get this out of the way. Well, we're almost at the end of another beautiful day. We had a real productive day today. Been real happy. So far we've gotten 62 acres covered, and we might be able to get another 30-45 minutes before it gets a little damp. Had a gorgeous sunset tonight. Wonder if Kelly got any pictures. Yield's still really holding strong on this farm. I'm tickled. Yield monitor showing 60 bushels an acre, and it's just steadily going up. From double crop beans, that is freaking fantastic. But anyway, we're gonna cut on a little bit longer this evening, and we'll bring you back tomorrow. I think tomorrow morning we're gonna try and get our drill and stuff moved up to the farm that we're going to plant wheat on, and go ahead and get it filled up and calibrate it. That way, whenever I go to plant wheat, that's already done. Probably going to be here in another couple days. We're going to try and get started on getting our wheat planted, at least on the 70 acres we can get planted until we get some cotton picked. So anyway, I'll see y'all in the morning.